In this video, we're going to look at the decision to sell a product or to process it further. So we'll run through this example where the information's already solved for you together, and then I'll also go into the practice problem down below. So we have Santa Maria buys raw wool and separates it into 3 grades: coarse, fine, and superfine. Each grade can be sold undyed, or it can be processed further, meaning we dye it, and that we sell it at a higher price. So we have joint costs, meaning these are costs that are incurred before the split off point, before the point where we might process and start dyeing the wool. So the cost of the wool is $200,000, the separation is $40,000, and so we have a total joint cost of $240,000. Joint costs are relevant to the sell or process further decision because they are in the past. We can't change it from this point forward. It doesn't matter as far as dyeing it goes. That is the cost that's going to be incurred no matter what we do with the product, so it's irrelevant. So we have this additional product data for each of these 3 different grades of wool that at the split off point, so if these are left undyed, these are our selling prices for each grade of wool. If we do dye the wool, we can sell them for an additional price. So they become more expensive when we dye them. And then we also have the cost of dyeing the wool. So if we want to perform our incremental analysis, we are going to decide which products should we sell undyed versus which one should we process further into dyed wool. And what we see here is that we are taking the sales value after processing it further minus the sales value if we do not process it further to calculate our incremental revenue. Then we're subtracting from that the cost of processing it. And so I just pulled down these costs down here below. And if we take our incremental revenue minus our incremental cost, then we see a disadvantage of dyeing the wool. So that'll be a $10,000 disadvantage. So we're going to sell that wool undyed. However, the fine and the superfine wool, we can actually have a financial advantage if we dye each of those, $30,000 and $20,000. So we would recommend processing both of those further and completing the dyeing process and then selling it for the higher price point. There's also just this breakdown of overall profitability. So we're taking the sales revenue of our coarse wool undyed plus the sales revenue from dyeing the fine and the superfine to get total sales of $370,000. And then we subtract out all of our joint costs, which were calculated previously, plus the additional cost of dyeing the fine and the superfine. So we have total cost of $310,000, giving us a net profit of $60,000.